In the book of the Revelation, the Antichrist is never described as someone who negotiates a temporary peace with Israel. On the contrary, he's described as a beast. He hates God, he hates Israel, and he hates God's people. I believe there are several reasons why Israel is able to rebuild its temple and do so without the need for a treaty. Revelation 11:5-6 shows us that the two witnesses have the power to prevent the beast or any other enemy of God from entering the temple or trampling Jerusalem for 1260 days. I will later point out scriptural evidence that they prophesied during the first half of the tribulation. God himself destroys 5/6 or over 83% of the Gog-Magog army, which eliminates the initial threat to the land of Israel. In addition to that, we are in a Jubilee year, which I think, with the destruction of the Gog-Magog army, God opens the door for the Jews to possess all of the land that he promised to the descendants of Abram in Genesis 15:18, which extends from the Nile to the Euphrates. There are a couple of strong indications that the Euphrates River becomes the eastern border of Israel in the tribulation. In Revelation 9:14 it says, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. This happens during the sixth trumpet or the second woe. In the second woe, an army of 200 million kills 1/3 of men. Also in the second woe, the beast kills the two witnesses, and I believe he does it with the help of that demonic army. At the sixth bowl judgment, Revelation 16:12 says, and the sixth angel poured out his bowl upon the great river Euphrates, that the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. What I find interesting is that the beast overwhelms the two witnesses with the help of a demonic army 200 million strong. In Revelation 11:7, referring to the two witnesses, it says, and when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them, and shall kill them. Apparently, the beast thinks he can use the same technique on Jesus at the War of Armageddon. This time, the army is comprised of the kings of the East. According to the map, there are still a number of Islamic countries east of the Euphrates. I would conclude that they are the kings of the East. This is the land that Israel controls today. The primary book for understanding the tribulation is the book of the Revelation. It is the book that covers the tribulation from start to finish. It has the most complete description of the tribulation in the Bible. It is the only book that includes a special blessing for reading and understanding it. That blessing is stated in the first chapter and reaffirmed in the last chapter. When the rapture occurs, family members will go missing, and it will be a global phenomenon. I have no doubt that widespread grief and hysteria will follow. As you can see from the text on the screen, on the day that the rapture occurs, the headlines will be about missing people, not about a treaty. I also believe that young children and aborted babies will be raptured, even from pagan countries, and I base that on 2 Samuel 12:23. David had a son born to him in adultery with Uriah's wife Bathsheba. Verse 23 says, but now he is dead, wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. No child asks to be born, and they don't get to choose their parents. Young children do not understand their need for salvation. I believe God will give them a chance to decide and allow them to live in and repopulate the earth in the millennial kingdom. It won't take long for Jews to realize that Christians and other family members are missing. Romans 11:25 says, for I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits. that blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. They may not realize that Jesus Christ is the Messiah until he returns to the Mount of Olives, but they do know that Christians support Israel. I am convinced that the eyes of many Jews will start to open in the tribulation as a result of the rapture of the church, combined with the destruction of the Gog-Magog army and the subsequent opening up of the land that was promised to them in Genesis. We should keep in mind that the tribulation is Daniel's 70th week, and God still has some unfinished business to take care of concerning Israel and the Jews. The Jews were promised the land of Israel and a deliverer. Jesus is coming back to rule as King of Kings from the city of Jerusalem. The land of Israel will become the head of nations. That promise will be kept. Many of us are grateful for the work of Scotty Clark for recognizing that the man-child of Revelation 12 represents the church. That was huge. You're looking at a screenshot of one of his videos. When we are all finally gathered together in the rapture, I will be one of those standing in line to shake his hand. There's much more going on in chapter 12. Verse 2 says, "And she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered." I think this tells us that around the time of the rapture, Israel could be facing a potential crisis. Could that crisis have something to do with Gog-Magog? In my opinion, it is a possibility because according to Ezekiel 39:9, Israel burns their weapons for 7 years, which I think places Gog-Magog near the start of the tribulation. Consider this. If, for example, 5/6 of the Gog-Magog army is destroyed, the land in Israel has increased from the Nile to the Euphrates, the church is gone, and the 2 witnesses are in Jerusalem, then the absolute safest place on the planet at that moment would be Israel, and Judea in particular. The closer the Jews can get to the 2 witnesses, the better. The fastest way to get there would be on the wings of a great eagle. Nowadays, we would call them jets. When you read in Revelation 12:7, "And there was war in heaven," you have to ask why. I think it's because at the rapture, Satan and his angels see us in the clouds standing with Jesus and his angels. According to Ephesians 6:12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." If that's the case, then Satan knows he's about to get kicked out of his stronghold in high places and starts a war, but he loses and gets thrown down to earth. The war in heaven is followed by war on earth. When the dragon loses his stronghold, he's angry. He has lost access to us because the church has been caught up to God and his throne. He then turns on Israel, but Israel is protected for 3.5 years. So the only option Satan has left is to persecute the remnant of her seed, which we would call the tribulation saints. Let's read Revelation 12:13 through 17. "And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ." When the Lamb opens the first seal, the rider on the white horse does not yet have the power to dominate the world. As you can see, he has no arrows in his bow. At the midpoint of the tribulation, he will have an army strong enough to overwhelm and kill the 2 witnesses. Meanwhile, for 3.5 years, or 1,260 days, the two witnesses are driving the earth dwellers crazy. According to Revelation 11:5 through 6, the two witnesses have the following powers. Fire comes out of their mouth. They have the power to incinerate their enemies. This includes the beast. They shut up the heavens so that it doesn't rain during the days of their prophecies. This leads to worldwide famine. They turn waters into blood. The word waters suggests that water supplies will be affected. They smite the earth with all plagues as often as they wish. Their reach is global. I think the witnesses will be blamed for the trumpet judgments as well. I can just see the two witnesses announcing to the world that the enemies of God are about to get stung by locusts for 5 months. You can imagine how well that will go over. Revelation 11:3 says, "And I will give power unto my two witnesses, that they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them, and kill them." The beast kills the witnesses during the 6th trumpet, which is the second woe. The events of the second woe are covered from Revelation 9:12 to Revelation 11:14. A partial list of those events are as follows. The 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates are loosed. An army of 200 million embedded with those demonic angels kills 1/3 of mankind. John is told to measure the temple, but not to measure the outer court, because the Gentiles will trample the holy city for 42 months. Jesus seems to be referring to the impending murder of the witnesses when he says in Luke 21:20, "And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh." We know the witnesses are killed mid-tribulation because Revelation 11:9 says, "And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth." This cannot happen at the end of the tribulation, because when Jesus returns, the party's over. There is no party. The beast and the false prophet go straight to the lake of fire. They don't even make it to the white throne judgment. The second reason we know this happens mid-tribulation is Revelation 11:14, which says, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." When the beast kills the two witnesses, the earth dwellers see him as a hero. There is no question but that he now goes into the temple and declares himself to be God. At this point, nobody but Jesus can stop him. He can now dominate the world, and a great tribulation follows until his time is up. As Revelation 13:5 says, "And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. God bless.